Hello and welcome to the Eye of the Serpent channel, where I talk about Native American spirituality and culture from North to South America. My name is Edgar Martin Del Campo. Today is June 18th, 2024, and as many of you know, I've recently returned from a week in Colombia. This was my first travel to the country, and I was explicitly looking for supernatural and spiritual themes to produce videos for some of these upcoming episodes and installments. I wanted to talk about some of the ways in which these travels reflected or were very much like other travels that I've had in different parts of the Americas. And one of the important ways was because of my opportunity to visit an archaeological site. This time it was San Agustin, which is in southern Colombia. It is in the Andes region of southern Colombia. And this is also a UNESCO World Heritage Site. If I was going to visit any archaeological site in Colombia, it would have to be this one. I dedicated 2 days and a night, a hotel, a round-trip flight, specifically so that I could see the San Agustin archaeological site. And I'm very glad I did. It was just an extraordinarily, surprisingly beautiful and elaborate archaeological center. And there I took many photos and videos. I got to see things that I didn't even know were there. And in some respects, it reminded me a lot of the Olmec civilization in Mexico. So I definitely would like to make some videos exploring the possible connections between these two parts of the Americas. Another important aspect of this travel was I had my breakdown moments, which I talked about, for example, when I visited New Mexico in 2023. That sense of presence, that sense of just being in this moment of sheer beauty and this experience with the sacred, and that to the point where I just broke down and wept. And this time it was in Leticia. This is the little town at the southernmost tip of Colombia. It actually borders Brazil and Peru, and it is right along the Amazon River. So there at the Santander Park, I was there listening to the frogs croaking and chirping as sunset was as coming, and it sounded to me like the voice, the soul of the Amazon coming into the park. And it was just such an extraordinarily beautiful moment that it really just like captured me. And I still think about that really deep impression and encounter that I had in that part of the town. So I did have at least that one breakdown point that I often do when I have at least a week to travel in any of these areas that I visited. Another thing that I'll say about it is that I not only visited an archaeological site, but I also had the chance to see a couple indigenous communities. So, for example, I visited the Tikuna village of Macedonia, which is along the Amazon coast, or the edge of southern Colombia. And there I got to see a Maloca great house. There were some chances to see both contemporary and ancient expressions of the indigenous spirituality, which was a very important part of the things that I was looking for in across the country. I visited Bogota, the state capital, where I saw the Museum of Gold and the National Museum, both of which had many extensive collections of archaeological and ethnographic works. So from the ancient to the contemporary indigenous cultures. So it was very interesting to see the combinations, the complementarities, the way of the ancient and modern expressions of these Andean and Amazonian cultures, and indeed some of the places where the Andes and the Amazon seem to collide, very similar to the video that I made from my visit to Leimebamba in Peru back in 2019. So there were many ways to compare the contemporary expressions of shamanic and cosmological and mythological beliefs with perhaps interpretations of the artwork from the ancient civilizations from centuries before the conquest. So it was very interesting to see these possible readings of the ancient art by looking at some of the contemporary, some of the modern ways in which these similar beliefs are expressed among many of today's contemporary indigenous societies. I also bought many souvenirs. This time, the exception to my rule was that I didn't buy any books this time, which is very surprising. I did look for books, but I just couldn't find any books that really got my attention. However, I did buy everything else that I usually buy from these various travels. I bought chocolates. I actually walked across the border from Colombia into Brazil. So I will make a video about my adventure of crossing the border from Leticia into Tabatinga, specifically actually to buy chocolates at a local shop and then walk back across the border into Colombia so that I could say that I got souvenirs from Brazil. So I did get chocolates. I did get many souvenirs and gifts for myself and for many of my friends and relatives. I also had to buy coffee because how can you go to Colombia and not buy coffee? I got this in Pitalito, and this is very close to the site of San Agustin. So this was during the 2 days that I visited San Agustin to explore the archaeological sites. But here was a chance to buy 2 bags of locally harvested coffee. So I will definitely looking forward to having this because the coffee that I did have, different parts of Colombia, were just wonderful as I was expecting them to be. And as with many of my other travels, I also sampled much of the local cuisine. I was especially impressed with the cuisine around the Amazon River. The Amazon was a bucket list item for many years. I would even say decades. I've had many dreams about visiting the Amazon, and so I was very glad that this was my chance to go see it. I dedicated 3 days, almost half of the entire trip was just to be around Leticia so that I could enter the Colombian Amazon rainforest and learn about the environment, the wildlife, the cultures. And so I was definitely glad that I went to see that. The food was also wonderful there. And I'm going to have many videos about the food, such as the giant pirarucu fish. I had a slice, or I had a scoop of ice cream that was made from a weevil grub. So there were just it was just an exciting and fascinating part of the overall travel in Colombia. That was also where I purchased today's mask, one of my many souvenirs from this travel. So today's mask was purchased at a souvenir stand, a gift shop along one of the main streets of Leticia in Colombia. And this comes from the Tikuna tribe that is one of the 3 major societies that inhabit the area around Leticia. And the vendor herself, I believe, represented the Tikuna nation. And this is a detachable mask. I thought it was really cute that you have this fully dressed shaman figure with a removable mask so that you can kind of alternate between the regular human form and the form that embodies and expresses a supernatural being. And it even comes with a small staff, like a shaman staff, that is a part of the overall accoutrements. And it's dressed up in the traditional geometric patterns that are very common to the bark designs of the Tikuna. I actually have a video with Tikuna bark paintings, and so you have other examples on the Eye of the Serpent channel where you can see some other expressions of these overall designs. This was just an adorable and very important spiritual figure that reminds me of the ultimate purposes by which I went to visit Colombia. So this is just an adorable little memento of the kinds of things that I was pursuing and the kinds of subjects that I look forward to sharing with you now that I have such a rich trove of media that I will be producing for videos and postings and writings so that I can share with you all in these. I have at least a year's worth of content just from this past week. It was just a really enriching and illuminating experience that I look forward to sharing with you in these in the months to come, and perhaps even in the years to come. Please like, share, and subscribe to the Eye of the Serpent channel. Your support goes toward travel, research, and production. Thank you for watching, and good roads.